Alrighty, SMGs, the submachine guns. There are a lot of these. They are very good at close quarters combat. Some of these even push out into the mid-ranges with a reasonable degree of effectiveness. In general, a lot of these SMGs are actually really good. One of the main factors in determining where these SMG goes is the biggest size of the magazine you can put in them, and what kind of ammo they're shooting. An SMG's effectiveness is really very strongly linked to the ammo that it's shooting. So for example, with the MP7, you can get FMJ SX from the traders, and that is an extremely good round. Whereas anything that's 9mm, like the MP5 for example, a lot less effective because the best ammo from traders that you can get for it is AP 6.3, which is not very good in the current version of the game. So going forward, we're going to be talking about the SMGs, but also the ammo that they shoot, because the SMG's final rank in the tier list is strongly linked to the ammo that's available for the weapon. As you can see, I was a goofball, and I had all the SMGs bought and built in a very satisfying organization, but I've since disassembled some, sold some, used some, and now this is a complete mess. So, you're fired. I thought I hired you to make Tarkov videos, and you do this instead? You disrespect me. You disrespect my family. Never show your face in this town ever again. You need to truly escape from Tarkov, because if you stay here, me and the boys, we gonna get you. How could you sell the weapons before you filmed this part, huh? Why would you film this part last? Why would you do this to yourself? Yeah, you looking real silly now, huh? You looking real stupid. So anyways, getting into the SMGs. SR2M, otherwise known as the Veresk. This is new to the game as of patch 013, and this is a sweet little gun with really nice animations. Whether you're reloading, checking the mag, the chamber, or the fire select, all the animations feel really crispy and nice. This gun makes you feel like a commando when you're operating and fidgeting with it. It's really, really fun to use. The animations are awesome. BSG did a great job with that. With the SR2M, you're going to mainly be shooting 9x21 PS ammo, because PS ammo is the best that you can get from the traders. You get it from Prapor level 3. I use this in the configuration on the right for Test Drive Part 2, because you are required to use a KP-SR2 sight on it. It's okay, however, the EOTech is a lot better at communicating recoil to me as the player using it, but for Test Drive Part 2, you do have to use it with the KP-SR2, so I got a lot of time on using that. Prefer the EOTech, though. In general, if you want a simple summary of what this gun feels like, this is basically like a Russian MP7. It has harsh vertical recoil at the start of the spray. Quickly it levels out, and it feels pretty nice to use. The biggest issue I ran into when I was doing Test Drive Part 2 with this guy is the size of the magazines. There was many times where I would kill a PMC and then reload, and then I realized I got the kill with the very last bullet in the magazine, because after replacing the mag, my character had to reload by using the charging handle. And there was several instances where I had to reload mid-fight because I did not successfully defeat the opposing PMC with the last round in the magazine. So this is a sweet gun. It shoots pretty nice ammo. It's a nice addition to the game. It is going into B tier. It's good and it's fun. It's a fun little gun. Since we mentioned it earlier, the MP7A2 and the MP7A1. In comparison to the Veresk, the MP7 has 40 round mags, and those 10 extra rounds can make all the difference. That being said, with this weapon, if you can't buy the suppressor or the 40-round mags from the traders, I do not recommend buying them from the flea, because they are unbelievably expensive. It's not worth spending so much money on mags and a suppressor just to die to a cheater and be extremely frustrated and disappointed with the game. You unlock both the suppressor and the 40-round mags at mechanic level 4, so go get working on grinding those trader levels. You got this. If you really want to use the MP7, I would say buy these from the trader, save yourself some money. If you really want, you can buy the suppressor from the flea and then buy the 30 round mags from mechanic level 3, but I would just say if you want to enjoy this weapon, get mechanic level 4, get the suppressor from the trader, and get the mags from the trader. The difference between the MP7A2 and the MP7A1 is the A1 comes with a foldable foregrip, so you cannot change the grip. The MP7A2 comes with a Picatinny rail, so you can choose what grip you put on it. This means you can put like an SE5 on it if you want higher ergonomics. You can put on the gangster grip like I did if you want better ergonomics and better recoil. Or you can put on an RK2 if you really want to minimize the recoil as much as possible. So the MP7A2 gives you more options in how you want to customize the weapon, but they are both excellent. The MP7A2 is a little bit better though. With this guy, you'll be mainly using FMJ SX from Peacekeeper level 3. Unfortunately, they have reduced the global limit of this in an attempt to nerf the MP7, but I think this is a really bad change because this is just preventing people from being able to enjoy the weapon. And it is not nerfing the weapon at all for people who already have this ammo in large amounts. So shame on you, BSG. Nerfing the global limit of FMJ-SX I think it's a very poor decision in terms of how to balance or nerf this weapon. It's very silly. I don't agree with it. That being said, I know some people like to use this gun with subsonics. You can get subsonics from mechanic level 2. I personally do not like to use this gun with subsonics, but if you want to, you can give it a shot and see if it works for you. I don't like it, so I just run FMJ. The MP7 is going into S tier for SMGs. Obviously, this is not a very versatile weapon in terms of sniping with it or something like that, but as far as SMGs are concerned, it is definitely the best. And it's going into S rank. The P90, or as us Counter-Strike players refer to it, the Pro 90. This is a really good gun. It comes with 50 round mags, which are awesome because they have a high capacity, but trying to reload them while in raid takes forever. This is a really good gun with good fire rate and good recoil control. The only issue really with the P90 is the ammo for it, because as far as ammo from the traders, we have SB193 from Peacekeeper level 4. This ammo has very low velocity, it can be a problem when you're using it. It's annoying at any kind of distance. Obviously for short ranges, it's probably fine. So if you want more velocity from the traders, you can go with L191. This has more velocity, however, it has a tracer. So if you're trying to shoot someone at distance with a tracer, it's not good at all either. The big problem with the P90 in the current version of the game is you can't get SS190 from traders. The P90 needs SS190 because it has high velocity, no tracer, and it's a good round. It wouldn't make the P90 overpowered, it wouldn't make the P90 broken, it would just make it good. So I really think we should be able to buy SS190 from the traders, but we cannot. So that's the main issue with the P90, because in the past, one of the best things about the P90 is it was more versatile than the other SMGs, meaning you could throw a Bravo on it like this, for instance, and you could use it as a mid-range, whereas the other SMGs really couldn't. And it was mainly because of the velocity of SS190. So you could take it to resort and use it as an effective close-range weapon, and then on your way out, if the sniper scav starts shooting at you, you could use it effectively to get rid of a longer-range threat, like the sniper scav, for example. That versatility is completely gone with SB193 because the velocity is way too low. You can regain that by magazine swapping, so you could have some magazines that are SB193, some that are L191, and swap them accordingly when necessary. But even the thought of this sounds incredibly frustrating to me. I'm definitely not going to do that. I'm just going to continue to sit here and pout that I don't have SS190. Maybe I'll go craft some. In the current state of the game, the P90 is not bad. In fact, I am putting it in A tier. It is below the MP7, but it is still a really good gun. I just wish we could have SS-190 for it, because that would increase the versatility of the weapon, and it would not make it overpowered. The not made by HK MP9. I know, crazy, right? Now we're entering the world of 9mm, and we're going to stay here until we're done talking about all 9mm, because currently 9mm in the game is very weak. AP 6.3 that you can buy from the traders is, oh boy, not very good. And the better ammo that you can get, PBP, that is craft only. So anyways, the MP9 and the MP9N. Similar to the MP7 situation, the gold one, you can put a custom grip on it. As you see, I got the gangsta grip on there, looking good. But these are two very different guns. The golden one has a fire rate of 900 RPM. The MP9N, it's got a fire rate of 1,100. This thing is spitting faster than Eminem and Rap God, you know what I'm saying? Demonstrating, give the audience the feeling that they're levitating. Yeah, I wanted to be a rapper in high school. As you can see, I'm really good at it, so yeah. I'm kind of a big deal. Anywho, both of these guns are limited to 30-round magazines, so neither of them are really that combat effective. However, the MP5N, oh man, this thing just shreds. Like, this thing is so much fun to use. Like, I want to put the MP9N in a better tier than the MP9, but when I was looking at the categories and I was really thinking about it, ultimately their positives and negatives cancel out. The positives of the MP9N is the faster fire rate, but the negative of that is it's harder to control and it burns through the 30 rounds quicker. Whereas the positive of the MP9 is that it has the slower fire rate, which means it's easier to control, so it takes better advantage of the 30 rounds. It's clearly not as fun to use, and in close range, not as effective as the higher fire rate. So they both have positives, they both have negatives, and because of that, because of their individual negatives and positives, I think they end up being about in the same tier. However, I think the MP5N is a lot more fun to use. It's not the best gun, it's not the best, but it's fun, so hey, we have that, right? The MP9 and the MP9N are going into D tier. These weapons are okay in close range, but they lack any kind of medium range effectiveness. The MP9N is fun to use with the higher fire rate, but it's a little bit more wild. The MP9 is easier to control, but hey, it's not as fun, so those are the trade-offs. The main thing about these weapons that I consider a strong negative is the 30-round magazine, especially when you consider that they're shooting 9x19, so the best trader ammo you can put in this is AP 6.3, which is very weak ammo. Anyways, these are going into D tier, and we are moving on. The MP5 and the MP5KN. The duality of the MP5. One gun is extremely good, one is extremely bad. The MP5KN is very bad. You can mount an EOTech onto it. That's kind of cool. That's probably the only thing good about it. I still think it's going into F tier. It is not good at all. The MP5, however, is a gun that's better than its ammo. The MP5 is a very good gun. It has nice controllable recoil. It feels very friendly. There's multiple viable and good builds you can do with it. I am demonstrating the SD build because it's easy to get from the trader and it is very effective. You can get a 50-round drum for the MP5, which is very nice. I think the MP5 is let down by the fact that it shoots AP 6.3 because it's a really good gun. The MP5 would be higher if it was shooting better ammo, but with a lot of the SMGs, their effectiveness strongly relates to the ammo that they're shooting. So the MP5 is going into C tier. But it's a good gun. It's a good gun. Don't be sleeping on the MP5. The MPX. Every time I use this, or I review it, or I think about it, I always am left with the feeling like this weapon should be better, but for some reason it feels like somehow it just feels worse than the MP5, and I really don't understand why. It should be better than the MP5. It really should, but for some reason it just doesn't feel like it to me. The couple things that I could point at is when you're spraying this weapon, it feels like the horizontal recoil is more violent. And near the end of the spray, it feels like the gun loses, feels like it loses control. Like it starts going more left, more right, more up, more down. And whereas the MP5, once it's on target, it stays and it holds position. Whereas this thing, the deeper you get into the spray, the more it wants to just wiggle around on you. And that gives me a really bad feeling, like a lack of confidence in the weapon. Also, I can't stand it how when you reload it, the magazine sticks through the weapon. Every time you put a magazine in, it sticks through the model of the weapon, and that gives me a sense of feeling of, like, cheapness about it. I know it's only the weapon model, but, like, the fact that I see that every time I reload, it gives me this permanent feeling of cheapness with the MPX, and the MP5 feels super solid and very good, and the MPX feels it's not as good. It's not as good. The positives are in its SD configuration, you can actually mount a grip, as I have the gangster grip equipped. It has 41 round magazines, which balance ergo and capacity. It has a 50 round drum if you really want capacity. There are multiple builds with this thing you can do. There are multiple barrel lengths. You can make this a really long barrel. I personally think the SD build is better. The MPX, I always think that it should be better, and I'm always kind of let down. I always think that, like, when I'm using it that it should be better, and I'm always left with the feeling that I think the MP5 is better. The MPX is going into C tier right next to the MP5, but if the MP5 is a C+, the MPX is a C-. 9mm Vector. This gun is awesome. The initial thing you'll notice when you first shoot this weapon is you don't need to pull down at all for any of the initial recoil. It's very flat even at the start of the spray. And the 9mm Vector, I think, feels better than the 45. The Vector has two different barrel lengths, but you should always stay with the 5-inch barrel, because when you upgrade the barrel and the hand grip accessory, all you're doing is losing ergonomics. You do not improve the recoil of the weapon at all. So here with this build, we have a vertical recoil of 17 and an ergonomics of 59. Horizontal recoil 161. And with this build, we now have an ergonomics of 56. Vertical recoil still of 17, but horizontal recoil is now 158. That is a reduction in 3 horizontal recoil. I tested this. This is a very, very small change. I tested this so you don't have to. Super clickbait title. Ah, look at all the tasks. It didn't actually make any noticeable difference when I was using the weapon. Another great thing about the Vector is you can get a 50 round drum. I seem to have forgotten to mention that the Vector has a fire rate of 950 RPM, which is very high, and as you can see, it's very controllable. So the Vector, it's awesome. It's probably our best 9mm weapon in the game, and I am putting it into B tier. The PP1901. This is a little bit of a headshot machine. This is a full auto, but it has a very low RPM of about 700. which makes it very easy to control in full auto spray. This thing is okay for headshots, but as far as any kind of thorax play, this thing shoots very slowly and is limited to 30 round magazines. This is not a very good weapon, especially considering the fact that it shoots 9mm, 9x19mm, so the good old AP 6.3 we've been chatting about. This is a weapon that's best if you mod it as little as possible and go for headshots. The PP1901 is going into E tier. Next, we have some semi-auto 9mm, the Saiga-9 and the STM-9. These are two semi-autos in two different flavors. The Saiga-9 takes AK parts, and the STM-9 takes M4 parts. There's multiple different barrels with the STM-9. You can have a very, very long barrel to make a 9mm sniper, if you wish to have such a thing. Also, here's something very interesting. On the Saiga-9, you cannot mount a Razor or Voodoo, however, on the STM-9, you can. So the STM-9 is actually more purpose-built to be a 9mm sniper, if you require such a thing. Please don't. If we are genuinely asking between these two semi-autos which is actually better, I truly believe the STM-9 is better because it shoots flatter, it has higher potential for modding, and how much flatter it shoots becomes obvious when I go to the shooting section. I do 2 mags with the Saiga-9, and then I switch to the STM-9, and you see I pull down, and I clearly don't need to. And then after doing 3 mags of the STM-9, I switch back to the Saiga-9, and you will see that, like, I need to pull down because I start missing the target. So in terms of which one of these is actually better, the STM-9 is better because it shoots flatter on the initial spray. I'd say it has higher modding potential, depending how much money you want to actually throw into it. The spread of the shots is more tight. That being said, these are both semi-autos that are shooting 9mm, so that's really not what you want. So these are both going into F tier, but the STM I'd say is like F+, and the Saiga-9 I'd say is like F-. The Vector 45 ACP. We are done with 9mm. The Vector 45 only has 30 round magazines, and it has quite a bit of horizontal recoil. With this guy, you're going to be mainly shooting match FMJ because a 45 AP is now craft only. So the ammo that you'd spam from traders is 45 match FMJ, which is from Peacekeeper level 1. The Vector 45 also has 2 different barrel options, but I again would recommend just stick to the default barrel that comes with the gun. You don't need to upgrade it. You don't need to buy the handguard accessory. It makes a very little, if no difference at all. Did I mention the Vector 45 has a fire rate of 1,100 RPM? So this gun is shooting very, very quickly, and in the recoil-reduced world that we're living in, that fire rate can carry this gun, even if the horizontal recoil is a little bit annoying to deal with. The Vector 45 is going into B tier. The UMP. This is one of the most noob-friendly weapons in the whole entire game, and it is in the SMGs category. It has a very slow fire rate of around 600 RPM. That's very slow for SMGs. Fires 45 ACP match FMJ ammo, which is basically dirt cheap from Peacekeeper level 1. This is one of the most noob-friendly weapons in the game because it has a slow and very controllable fire rate. It is cheap to buy. The ammo for it is also cheap. The one criticism of the UMP is that it has 25 round magazines, and it is sort of boring to use once you've used it like a whole bunch. Kind of like with the RFB. It's like, yeah, it's great, it's an awesome budget weapon, but If you use it for like thousands of raids, you're kind of like, I would like to do something else now, please. But the UMP is fantastic from a budget perspective and a control perspective. You can switch the barrel on this guy to fit the vector suppressor. However, I don't recommend doing that because it doesn't benefit you. The UMP is fantastic as far as a budget and noob-friendly gun. The 25-round magazines are a little bit of a limitation, but with how slow it fires, it's usually not that big of an issue. The UMP is going into C tier. Pretty good gun. The PPSH-41, or the Papaschaft. This is a cool little SMG from World War II. You might have remembered from the older World War II game. This gun in this game is a little bit not so good, mainly because you cannot suppress it. There's no ammo for it that has, you know, really good penetration. But one fun fact about it is it doesn't jam, which I think is a tip of the hat to a series of YouTube videos which were taken down from YouTube. Some people have re-uploaded it as the title called Gunbusters, where they basically shoot tons and tons of ammo with these weapons to the point of extreme failure. And the PPSH did extremely well. I don't think it actually failed in the video, so I think it's the fact that it doesn't jam in game is a small tip of the hat to that little video series that got taken down from YouTube. There's two main things. In terms of ammo, there's two ways you can go. You can go with LRN PC if you want to go for a leg meta. This is from Jaeger level 1. I spelt Jaeger wrong, isn't that funny? LOL. Well, can't change it now. That's it. We're not going back. This is our reality. Or you can go with TT-PST GZH from Prapor Level 2. This is what I prefer to use. This has a little bit of penetration, but it's still not good pen ammo. But I don't like leg meta, so this is a little bit better, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, this is a cool little SMG. You can put 71 round drums on it. You can't really modify it all that much. Not that you really need to, because it's okay how it is. The biggest downside of this SMG from using it, in my opinion, is the muzzle flash. The muzzle flash is really big, and it is quite distracting when you're trying to shoot at a target. Also, this is an open bolt gun, so when you chamber check, you just look into the gun. And there's no chamber for the bullet to be in, because the bullet is still sitting in the magazine when it's ready to be fired through the barrel. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Anyways, PPSH, this is not a good SMG, mainly because of the ammo and the fact that you can't control the muzzle flash. So this is going into F tier. The PP9, PP91, and PP9101. If that's the first time you've heard anyone refer to these guns like that, same for me too. These are better known as the Klin, the Kedr, and the Kedr-B. The Klin has a faster fire rate and can shoot overpressured rounds, which there's only one of them, which is PMM-PSTM GZH. So this is a round that is overpressured. It can only be fired by the Klin. If you try to put it into the Kedr or the Kedr-B, it will not let you. If you put it in the magazine and then try and shoot with it, you will get this little error message. And when you hover over it, it's kind of funny. It tells you that 9x19 ammo doesn't work, so you need to get 9x19 ammo. So that's kind of fun. Anyways, the Klin has a faster fire rate and can shoot overpressured rounds. Why do we need overpressured rounds in Tarkov? Because Tarkov. That's why. No more questions. The Kedr is a good representation of the standard version of this type of gun. The Kedr has a fire rate of 900, whereas the Klin has a fire rate of 1000. And the Kedr cannot be suppressed, which is why we need the Kedr-B, because the Kedr-B can be suppressed. Best ammo for penetrating on these guys is the 9x19 PM PBM GZH from Prapor Level 2. 9x18! 9x18, you idiot! Oh my god. What do these guns like to shoot? In my opinion, I think the biggest thing to mention about the Klin and the Kedr is they both feel like they shoot low in comparison to where your reticle is when you're spraying. The Kedr-B actually feels pretty good to shoot. It feels like it shoots where you're pointing. Whereas the Kedr and the Klin both feel like they shoot low. Personally, the Kedr-B is my favorite in this category, even though you can't really mount an optic on it. The iron sights on it are good enough, and like I said, in terms of how they shoot, the Kedr-B is the only one that really feels like it shoots where you're pointing it, so the Kedr-B is the winner for me. The Klin, the Kedr, and the Kedr-B, these are all going into F tier, mainly because there is not really any very good ammo for it. You can make these weapons work with leg meta. I personally don't like that, but if you want to go for more standard play, these are not very good, and they are limited to 30-round magazines. Overall, maybe a fun factory weapon, maybe fun on a budget, but definitely not a good endgame weapon going into F tier. And that concludes the SMGs. This is a pretty diverse category with a lot of really fun weapons. Go ahead and give them a shot. Some of these are very, very good right now on maps like Streets, for example. I think the MP7 on Streets is a total beast. Same with the P90. Obviously, the SR2M, you need to use it for Test Drive Part 2 on Streets. 9mm overall seem pretty lackluster, mainly because AP 6.3 is just really not good. And yeah, living in a recoil-reduced world, everything that's semi-auto is really not good. And low fire rates are less desirable. So that's where we're at right now, and this is what we have for the submachine guns.